how do you measure potential? Like, your potential is unlimited. It's all about your mindset. Whether you're a DJ, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a writer, you're creating a startup. Anybody that doesn't want to be a DJ, just know that it is like a startup. It's like personal brand, a startup company. That was the only thing I wanted to do, and there was no other option.
How did your family take it when you told them that you wanted to be a DJ?
Ooh. Yeah, I think thinking about...
When you have all these different aspects that you're dealing with, where the lifestyle of a DJ, how do you cultivate that level of discipline?
People say, do you get burned out? And I say, absolutely not. I only feel...
What is it like to live in the life of an international DJ? Well, today we're going to find out, and it's not exactly the quality of life that you would think, at least not for this human being who I happen to know very well. And over the course of several years, I've seen this individual grow from someone who was DJing on college campuses to now being an international presence. I'm very fortunate to call this athlete, entrepreneur, international presence, just a one-of-a-kind human being and a very dear friend, Mr. Jimmy Grant, Rose Drive. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. I'm feeling very thankful to be a part of the Inside the Inspired podcast. And Jonathan Cohen is one of the most genuine people I know, like podcast space, social media, as a personal friend. And we got to get a great workout in. So feeling good after a travel day, and let's go. Let's have some fun.
Man, this one has been a long time coming, largely because obviously I'm a fan, obviously a friend. You were at my wedding. Just so everyone's very clear, there is a lot of bias in this one. Don't let anyone be fooled. I'm super proud of everything that this man has accomplished, but it is very well earned. And I want to actually start by giving the audience a flavor of who you are. There's a lesson that I learned a few years ago, and it was actually from you. You have this unconventional background of coming from the Naval Academy. And the first time that we met, I actually listened to you speak. You got up in front of a group of people, and you were a guest at a party, and you talked about the value of getting better at one thing every single day, and that message has stayed with me ever since, and we've been friends ever since. So let's start there. Where did you learn that lesson, and how do you practice that on a daily basis?
Well, I think I have to give credit to growing up in a family of athletes. The first concept of getting better every day comes from my father. Played college football at the Naval Academy. He was an offensive lineman, all-state football player in high school, and his coach, George Welsh, who is University of Virginia and Naval Academy Coaching Hall of Fame, he said, you either get better every day or you get worse. Like, you cannot stay the same. And for some reason, even when I first heard that at like the age of 13 or 14, it really registered with me. Another quote that my family kind of like instilled in me, my grandfather was an NFL scout for the Rams for a number of years and an athletic director. And he said, he's always talking about the concept of potential. How do you judge these great athletes where everybody runs a 4.4 40 or something, or can bench press 225 25 times? Like, how do you pick these running backs and linebackers to like actually bring what they brought in college football to the NFL? And he's always talking about the word potential. And I didn't understand. I was like, I said, hey, Grandpa, like, how do you measure potential? Like, what does potential mean? And like, how do you gauge it? And he's like, your potential is unlimited. It's all about your mindset and how you get better every day or how you get worse. And you can't rest on your current skill set or laurels. Getting 1% better every day, and the concept of like unlimited potential is just, even from a young age, just ingrained in my mind. So that's where it comes from.
That's a pretty powerful lesson to learn that early in your career. And it sounds like it kind of set you on that path of wanting to improve. What was it like in the Naval Academy?
People say that it's a great place to be from, but not a great place to be. I mean, I think anybody knows with a military background that there are moments of rites of passage where you have to earn your spot, show that you're willing to take orders when you're not wanting to. And as a freshman, you're basically getting treated like a lesser citizen on campus by the juniors and seniors. And it can be a really challenging time trying to balance your studies, where everybody at the Naval Academy, they were, top 1% of their high school. They were all captains of the football team. And being around a lot of people that were really, really top notch at everything they did, and coming from high school where you might be in that top tier and there's always someone stronger than you, faster than you, smarter than you, or a better rider. And you can learn from so many people. And it's like a really humbling thing. I truly struggled for 4 years at the academy. So
Really?
after doing very well in high school, the Naval Academy definitely taught me to just think bigger, just seeing, all the talented people out there in the world, people from the Midwest, the West Coast. We had some international students. So it was a really good wake-up call as an 18, 19-year-old the first year at college to have that experience.
How long did you spend over there?
I did 1 year at the Naval Academy prep school between high school and going to the academy. It was in Newport, Rhode Island. Get into the academy, you essentially need to get a nomination from a senator or a congressman, which I did not get out of high school. I went to high school in Maryland, which is one of the most competitive places to get a nomination with the Naval Academy. Being in Maryland, everybody knows about it. So I had to do a year of prep school before getting into the academy. A year at prep school, 4 years at the academy, 3 years active duty, U.S. naval officer, was an electrical engineering officer on a warship stationed out in San Diego. So total of, I guess, 8 years military between prep school, Naval Academy, and then active duty.
That's what I think is so impressive about you as a person. There's all of these morals, values, practices, habits, routines, and rituals that are ingrained and cemented in you that kind of follow this trajectory of, a bit unconventional, you could say. Follows in your DJ style, it follows in your creative process. I mean, as a person, you're obviously quality. How did you adapt socially and professionally, knowing that you had to take a bit of a different path relative to everybody else?
Well, I think it was kind of an idea of it being the only path. Once DJing became a hobby for me, it quickly became an obsession, like our friend Zach likes to talk about.
Yeah.
And, I went to the academy and tried to walk on the baseball team and got cut. At the time, my world was over. My whole life, was really passionate about baseball. That ended my freshman year. And at the same time, I got obsessed with DJing, learning how to produce music. Went and bought the cheapest DJ controller I could find and taught myself how to DJ and how to produce and everything. And it quickly became the only path where, okay, I know I have a commitment. After I graduate, I'm going to be active duty in the military. It was just so crystal clear to me that was the only thing that was the only thing I wanted to do. And there was no other option. I was just all in ever since, just by accident too. It was never part of the plan. Just came across Ultra Music Festival videos on YouTube, and that was kind of game over after that.
Forgive me if I'm asking the question a bit differently, but I don't really know how else to ask you. Yeah. But how did your family take it when you told them that you wanted to be a DJ?
It was a 6 or 7 year buildup when I first bought my first DJ controller to doing my first tour across the US. So I didn't just buy a DJ controller and then say, hey, mom and dad, I don't want to go get like a master's degree or anything after the academy anymore. I want to be a professional DJ. It wasn't like a flip the switch like that. Over 3 years at the academy, I built up my skills, started to DJ in clubs in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, graduated, moved out to San Diego and started releasing my own remixes. And some really, really big DJs started reposting my music on their SoundCloud pages, and nightclubs across the US started reaching out to me. And I was like, okay, well, there's some traction here. It just kind of evolved, and just month by month, year by year, it grew and it grew. And then I started telling my parents some of the DJ fees that I was getting, and they're like, well, I told them hey, I want to go for this. And they say, well, they were all for it. I'm very, very thankful for, how supportive they've been. But it's been a gradual 7 year process to get to the point of doing it full time. I didn't just completely jump, no pun intended, jump ship and start being a DJ. So I hope that answered the question, but it was a gradual process for them to see the belief, and then an opportunity came up for me to DJ in London for the first time. An opportunity came up to DJ in Tokyo, and they're like, okay, this is more than just like a hobby. There's some substance there. My family, when they saw these international opportunities come in, they're like, okay, this is for real.
I think that's probably one of the coolest aspects of it, right? Because you have this element of proof that for you and yourself, I'm sure, and we could touch on that, what was that like when you were finding out, hey, I'm getting all these different opportunities that I really love what I'm doing and people want me to entertain their audiences. It's like this crazy level of validation on a global scale. What's that process like?
It's a really good feeling, but I'm also, as soon as that show is booked and it's going to happen, I'm already thinking about what's the next big opportunity that I can bring my way. So I honestly kind of have like in a good way, like the obsession thing or the sickness around this of just like, what is the next thing? It was a really good feeling. And it gave me validation. I would say the number one thing that really told me that you're doing something right is there's a really good, really talented alternative singer named Bishop Briggs, who is on Island Records. And her manager is Benji Madden, who was from the band Good Charlotte, if you remember that.
Oh, he was he was one of the brothers.
Yes, yeah, Joel and Benji Madden. So Benji Madden was her manager. And anyways, the A&R from Island Records, who Bruno Mars is on Island Records. It's like one of the top record labels in the world. They reached out to me and they said, hey, we would love for you to remix Bishop Briggs' new song, Champion.
Wow.
We need it in 2 weeks. And I was on tour. So put that remix together the best I could while on the road, sent it back to them, didn't hear anything for like a couple weeks. I'm like, well, I thought they needed it, within 2 weeks, and it had been a couple weeks till I heard back. So a couple of follow-ups later and get an email back and, hey, Bishop loves the remix. And then, the A&R, who is basically the person who coordinates all these things for music releases for a record label, she really liked it. And they're like, hey, we just need an approval from the manager. I knew who the manager was. And I'm at a sound check at a show in North Carolina. And I just see an email come in, and it's like, the name is Benji Madden. Like, Benji Madden just emailed me, and he's like, hey, bro, love the remix. We approve it. Let's release this next month.
Wow.
And like getting someone that I really looked up to as a kid to approve, like put a stamp of approval on like a piece of work that I did for one of their artists that they have obviously a ton of respect for. That was like, okay, the touring and the DJ part of the brand is there. Now like the producing and the music part of the brand is there. And to kind of really dive into it, to put things in perspective, like people have asked me, when did you find out like that you really loved music? Thinking back, I can't think of a specific time when I realized it in real time, but looking back, growing up, I played basketball. I was in like 7th grade. I was invited to go to like a birthday party with a group of friends from the basketball team after practice. And I had gotten a new Good Charlotte album. And I chose to not hang out with my friends, to literally just go listen to this music album by myself. Wow. So like just the fact that I remember vividly a Good Charlotte album being something that I would ditch friends in middle school to just go listen to and enjoy music by myself. And then, yeah, just kind of a full circle moment.
It's funny because I loved Good Charlotte, and you still listen to a bunch of punk rock.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Like that is a staple in your training and
so, part of
some of your music. Like it's, I noticed that theme and threshold within your content and your ethos. It comes across. And I can imagine that when something like that happens, when you get validated by someone you admire or appreciate their contribution to the world, if you will, or to an industry, that's an invigorating feeling. Like you wait for something like that your whole life. You're like, hey, if I could interact with that individual, and I can kind of pinpoint 1 or 2 moments on this journey that I'm on right now where someone I respect either appreciates the name or responds to a DM or anything like that. Like, hey, we're keeping up with what you're doing, or we're keeping that, watching a story, shooting over the follow, like all those little signs and breadcrumbs along the way, they mean a lot. And as you're speaking now, I'm thinking and reflecting on my own experience in this and thinking about the moments that it's like, hey, when did you know you wanted to start a podcast? And you can't fake those moments. You can't buy those moments. You have to create those moments. And in part of that journey that you're on right now, you've had all this opportunity kind of come your way. Right now, you're actually in the middle of a 10-day tour, I believe.
Yeah, it's 4 months of
A 10-day trip.
10-day trip, yeah.
10-day trip
without
on the
going home.
4-month tour, pardon me. And so over the course of these 10 days, you're going to all these different cities across the world. And we just got in a workout session before this, by the way. This man's a savage. He just came in from a show last night, hopped on, got into a car, a plane, another car, comes to New York, gets in a training session. Now he's doing a podcast, then he's got a meal, another car to a flight, and then he's off and out of the country for a few days. And that kind of work ethic, I think the obsession aspect is one thing, but you have this performance element where you operate at a very, very high level. And I think why I feel comfortable saying that is because I've seen it firsthand. You publish it. And in COVID in particular, you were even training at home. You were going on these long runs, 2-a-days. You're still doing some 2-a-days. Like, there's this work ethic component to your skill set and your ethos that has this long track record. Where does that come from? Is that a Naval Academy thing? Is that the kind of culture and environment you grew up in? What makes you want to continue with those types of habits today?
Part of growing up and being an athlete, it was always like wanting to be as good a shape and be strong, and as a pitcher wanting to create as much power and be able to throw the ball as hard as possible. And like that's where the lifting early on came from. But now I just feel the best I can't feel the best like my 100% best without lifting, without getting cardio in. And just the frequency of thought and the way that I can interact with others, bring the best energy that I can. I just know that comes from pushing myself in the gym. And, you know, you talked about the 2-a-days and everything. And and people say, how do you do this with touring? And they're like, do you get burned out? And I say, absolutely not. I only feel burned out if I'm doing too much of things that I don't love. And I feel very fortunate to be able to go all in with fitness, go all in with music, go all in with creating a brand online. And I truly just feel like every day I get to, you know, create the life that I want with people that I want to collaborate with and have conversations with, like you, and get workouts in and travel the world, and ultimately show anybody that they can follow an unconventional path and succeed, regardless of, you know, what anyone in their family's done, any societal norms, and just documenting that in a way that it's more than just the glamorous playing festivals and nightclubs and showing the behind the scenes of all the habits that go into it. It's hard to explain. It's just been a part of me for so long, and I operate the best when I'm in that rhythm. So yeah.
When you have all these different aspects that you're dealing with on a daily basis, where the lifestyle of a DJ is counterintuitive to the actual practices that someone like yourself with these awesome habits, routines, and rituals engages in, how do you cultivate that level of discipline?
You know, as a DJ where I'm traveling a lot and there's opportunities to stay up late and go to after parties if you want to, and opting to not do those things, having the discipline of thinking about what can I do tomorrow to optimize my best self for the future and everything. Whether you're a DJ, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a writer, you're creating a startup, anybody that doesn't want to be a DJ, just know that it is like a startup. It's like a personal brand, a startup company, being a musician, all in one. I can sum it up by just saying that you need to do the work regardless of the conditions. You're not going to be ready. You'll never be ready. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have the right amount of sleep. You're never going to have the perfect situation where, you know, anybody that's thinking about starting a podcast, you could say, oh, well, you know what? I think I'm going to wait until I have the perfect studio set up. I'm going to wait till I have the money to get the microphones. I'm going to wait until I have the network to bring on the high quality guests that I want. Well, if you keep waiting for the perfect conditions to exist, that's just never going to happen. If I wait for the perfect conditions to exist to lift and record a podcast while I'm traveling in between shows, I'll never get anything done. So I think that's the main thing. I hope it's answering your question, but I think like so much of people that are consumers on the internet that do want to be a musician, they do want to start a podcast, they want to be a content creator, a YouTuber, they're waiting for that perfect opportunity that's never going to come. And you just have to, like, the only, like, the, the perfect time is literally now. That's it. That's the best way I can sum it all up.
What I appreciate about someone like you, Zach, shout out to Zach, and the 100+ other interviews that I've done, is that there's this tone of humility in what you bring to the table, where you recognize, like, I have to do the work. I want to put in the work. And the moment that I'm waiting for is never actually coming unless I make it. And that's really something that I want to drive home, because too many people are waiting for those perfect conditions that do not exist. You are literally on the road, in between shows, tired, a counterintuitive profession to the habits and type of lifestyle that we're talking about. Well, you need a certain amount of sleep, you need a certain amount of protein, you need a certain amount of this, that, and the other thing. And you're like, I have my way. I know what I need to do. I don't use that type of equipment. I use this type of equipment, not because I'm particular, but because that's what's sustainable. And this is what I have to work with most of the time. So this is how I have to operate in order to sustain the habits, routines, and rituals that I want to, in order to continue to elevate and improve, and still be a creative and maintain my brand. And there's all these different things that range the gamut that go into what you're doing on a daily basis. Is that what Rose Drive is about? Can you tell us what is Rose Drive? What does that name
absolutely
mean?
So I think I'll tie together the humility piece as well. There's 3 parts to the meaning behind Rose Drive. So the way that's spelled, there's 2 I's in Rose Drive. I'll start with the drive part. And the reason that I use drive is it's representative of like your path in life or your calling. And that's something that, it can be a creative brand. It can be your occupation, or maybe it's both, or a number of things, where that's something that you have to decide for yourself. It's not your high school coach. It's not your parents. It's not your grandfather. It's not your sister. It's not your professor from law school, whatever it is. It's something that you have to figure out for yourself. And the 2 I's in Rose Drive are representative of one I is representative of the self, who you are at the beginning of your journey. The other I is representative of the person that you need to become to achieve that path, that drive, that path. And what brings those 2 I's together are those daily habits, those skill sets, those character traits, all the effort to become that person you need to be, to fulfill that potential, to make that drive, that path happen. The rose is representative of like the music and community, bringing people together. And like, I think the way people interact with each other on the internet and the way that the world is operating right now, it's like everybody's coming from a place of hate. Everyone's coming from a place of fear. And I think you ultimately, you come from an interaction with a new person or anything in life, like from a place of love, hate, or fear. And the rose is representative of love, bringing people together through music on the dance floor. And always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about, I'm on stage and the attention is on me, but the show isn't about me. It's about those 21-year-old, 22-year-old students, college students, or whoever's at the show that spent the last $30 they have to like get away from their worries for the weekend and like have fun at a Rose Drive show. Like that's who it's all about. It's like always about the dance floor and bringing people together. So that's like the rose is symbolic of love and that community through music.
That's a beautiful sentiment to bring and weave everything together, especially the focus on the audience and the customer, where you have this, and I was writing about this earlier, where like, do you have a responsibility to your audience? I would say so. And, you know, as an audience grows, it's tough not to get lost in the numbers. It's tough not to get lost in the upward trajectory. And, you know, as much as the obsession gets you to one place, you know, what got you here won't keep you here. And you have to constantly iterate. And I was writing about this the other day, where every new version of yourself requires a bigger, better version of yourself. You have to be able to rise to that occasion. And if you're not embracing that change and taking on new skills or figuring out a way to refine your skills, then you're going to get lost or remain stagnant, which arguably is even worse. And, you know, part of that is you actually can continue to elevate your skill set. You take on not 1 or 2 or 3, but 4 deck mixing. Can you explain to the audience what that means? Because I needed my own kind of tutorial on what that means and why it's so difficult and what that means as a DJ in today's day and age.
basically the equipment I use Pioneer DJ equipment. You have a mixer, a 4-channel mixer. And in the mixer, that's actually where the volume and the input is coming through, kind of like just over here in this podcast setup. Then the decks are where that input comes in for different music. So you can have on one deck, you could have an instrumental track with no words. Another deck, you could have an a cappella. Another deck, I could have a build up to a drop. And another deck, I could just have like a sample, like a drum pad to like build some more energy, whatever it may be. I've just seen more and more that, and this is something that I've done where, you know, DJs will make mashups in the studio and they'll be crafted so well, like you're producing a song, but you're bringing 2-3 different tracks together and making it sound one cohesive way to bring like such a cool vibe in a show. And I just figured everybody's doing this. There's not anything special about that. And some people are better in the studio at making these mashups than others. And I was like, you know what? I want to take more risk with my live shows. I don't want to be up there for 2 minutes or 3 minutes at a time and not actively touching something on the CDJs or on the mixer. I have gone all in on 4-deck mixing, which I kind of already explained is giving people maybe a song that they know the words to, just an a cappella. Let's say a U2 track, AC/DC, Beyonce, Rihanna, song that everybody knows.
Okay.
Whatever it is. Layer that over an underground house track that you've never heard in your life. And you're getting this element of, okay, I know this song that I've heard before, but you're also hearing something you never heard in your life with a cool vibe and energy, mixing that into a third track that is the drop, looping an acapella, doing different things, using a filter on one of the channels. And hard to explain it without just showing it. But in doing that, it's basically using the DJ equipment like an instrument. If you go see your favorite singer, your favorite band, your favorite hip hop artist, they have to actually execute the show. They can mess up at any given time. They could be off pitch. They can get something in their throat and just mess up or whatever it is. There's a lot of DJing that is just guaranteed perfection the way that people DJ. And I wanted to have innate risk throughout my entire show to like keep myself accountable, to keep things fresh and exciting for like people coming to the show. So that's ultimately like why I want to do the 4-deck mixing, just completely trying to elevate myself over other DJ sets and other experiences that people are bringing.
And that goes back to what we were talking about at the top of finding one thing to improve at every single day. And in a space like DJing where there's this technological element, artificial intelligence, and, you know, the future of music is getting more competitive. There's all these, and you're out here trying to refine your skill set and figuring out ways to stay competitive and distinguish yourself by taking on an art in the form of 4-deck mixing. And even someone just learning what that is, like today I found out what that was for the first time. I'd seen you post about it, I think, as well. It can go over someone's head, but I think it's important to kind of level set and say, hey, you want to redefine what it means to get on stage and present to your audience in a meaningful way that shows you're showing up, bringing your best and keeping them engaged, not calling it in and saying, you know, I bet most DJs probably use mashups, walk away, and they don't pay attention, and they're just like, you know, not to call anybody out, but that's, you know, definitely a practice. And
turning around, taking selfies with people, and
like you don't necessarily want to do that. And there's an element of energy that goes into your work where every single time, I mean, and it comes across in the content, you're jumping up and down, you're active, you're ready to go, keep everyone entertained and focused and delivering the best possible product to your audience. Your creative process, could you share with us a bit what that's like?
Ooh, yeah, I think for me, I'm always thinking about, I kind of was diving into it. In a show, I'm trying to create moments that people have never heard before. Playing Don't Stop Believing by Journey in the middle of a house EDM set, and then mixing that seamlessly into a house drop. Like they're just, people aren't really doing that. Anytime someone comes to my show, I want there to be specific moments that when they leave, they're like, I've never heard a DJ do anything like that before at a live show, and showing it physically with your hands, not just like from the studio. I always just go back to like, if I was at the show, like what would I want to hear that would just make me so pumped to be there and like excited and new and fresh. And it's always a delicate dance of playing what I generally want to play, and then also giving people what they want to hear, and then also what's trending. So there's always a lot of factors. It's not just a clean cut. Even depends on where in the world I'm playing. It's gonna be a different DJ set in London versus in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Athens, Georgia. So I mean, or Japan. So it's always, you always have to think about what reference do people that are coming to the show. Like, what are their music tastes? What's their background like? What are their lives like, and their experiences? What are they going to relate to? And catering to that, but then in my own style.
A couple different directions I could take this. I'm going to briefly ask you, what is your dream collaboration?
The big one is I love Rihanna's voice. I would love to collaborate with her. I mean, her voice is just so good for dance music. There are certain types of vocals and certain people's voices that just, it cuts through house music and EDM, and you feel that vocal and the house track so well. And some people's vocals are softer, so it gets lost in the house music. Another dream collaborator is a female vocalist from the UK, Foxes. She sang Clarity on Zed's song Clarity.
Yeah.
She has kind of like an indie pop style, and that would be a sick collaboration. I would love to. There's a ton of people I would love to get in the studio with and just even see them in their own element. And when it comes to creative work, I would love to be in the studio for when people are doing their vocal, but when it comes to doing my part, I want my space. I don't want anybody in there. So yeah, I would love to have a collab like that to talk about, what the song's going to be, the meaning behind it and everything. But then when it comes to the production side, it definitely needs to be by myself and locked in a room for a couple hours.
Yeah, I hear you on that, man. That's like where all the ideas get flowing and generating, and you want to be able to, stimulate that creative process in a way that actually cultivates something that lets you put out a great experience and product for the audience. And if you're distracted by the greatness of someone else, then it's gonna compromise the quality, and you don't necessarily want that. So it's only fair, if you're going to see their greatness and they could be great, then in order for you to be great, you're like, all right, I'm going to go do my thing, and then here's the quality product. Great to meet you, and let's make something beautiful. Yeah. Content creation. It's definitely a staple in your, I'm just going to take a second to open up one of these slates. Shout out to our sponsor for this slate. Use code INSPIRED for 10% off your purchase. Cheers.
This is fire.
It hits every time. 100 calories, 20 grams of protein, clean ingredients. They reinvented chocolate milk. And shout out to Josh Belinsky. Pleasure having you on the show, man. Can't wait to have you back and run it back in person.
Traveling in airports, I'm looking for like clean places to get a nice coffee with caffeine. Yeah. And I'm looking for ways to get protein without sugar. And I'm seeing like pretty much no sugar in here.
It's crazy.
We need Slate to be everywhere at all these airports, man. It'd make my life so much easier.
I think that's one of like the things they really need to get on, is actually having a presence at airports, because I'm always looking for something similar, and either my hacks are beef jerky or like a Slate if I bring it with me, or Greek yogurt, right? Yeah. Content creation. You have this community. The other element I did mention at the top is that you're a connector in a lot of ways. Not just connected, but a connector. You bring people together. You don't hoard the collection of people that you've accumulated over the course of your career. Instead, you're like, hey, you guys should meet. You guys should meet. You girls should meet. And you bring people together to create a semblance of a community, and some really awesome collaborations have happened as a result. I could speak to them firsthand, and stay tuned for those to come. They may have released by the time you see this episode. On a personal note, I am very grateful to you for a lot of your faith in me and introductions that you have made, and knowing that, I'll bring them the best quality experience, but also that they'll deliver on their end. And because of you, this podcast has seen an awesome growth trajectory. So let me publicly thank you for that, my man, because it means a lot. And I've told you many a time, but now I get a chance to thank you in person. So thank you very much. You're the man.
I want to say it's the least I can do, because the time that we met, we were both in college. And like you said, I was giving a talk to a group of individuals where some people weren't taking what I was saying seriously. And you're like one of the only people that really took what I said seriously. And like in college, not many people have their head on straight like that and really wanting to like better themselves. So from the day that we met, and like it's been over 10 years at this point, I mean, I knew that you're someone that's going to go far, and like always going to bring any opportunity I can your way. So
likewise.
Yeah.
So this element of being a connector, bringing people together, there's a selfless component, but also in terms of content creation as a whole, you have your own content that you make. So I guess it's going to be kind of a twofold question, compound question. Why are you out here making such great content, but also creating an abundance of content? And then from a networking perspective, from a connector perspective, why are you bringing people together?
So the first part of the content is that I think specifically in the DJ world, it's all about like momentum. And I think in content creation in general, if you're building a podcast, it's all about momentum. It's like, what have you done? What are you doing? What are you doing next? Like when I reach out to nightclubs, festivals, things like that, they want to know these things. And if you're pumping out content showing the energy from your shows, like what can people expect at a
Sure.
Rose Drive show? What is the environment like? Are people singing along? Are they having fun? Are people dancing? Is the crowd full? Documenting the journey of like behind the scenes, like getting these workouts in while on the road, and the travel sequences and everything that goes into it. I think it just makes people feel like they're along for the ride, and they get to know me through the fun, glamorous parts. And then, last night doing laundry at the hotel in Peoria, Illinois. So, I mean, it's just documenting all the real parts of just like what it's like to be on tour. And I think for the connector piece, it's just, I'll be honest, man. I mean, I've never really reached out to other DJs for help. I've never asked anybody for help. I've just wanted to like figure it out myself. And looking back, I think it would have been really cool to have had people to like introduce me to, nightclub owners, GMs, festival owners. And there have been things that have naturally come together. But when it comes to content creation and building, is just like, I want to see anybody around me win. Anybody that's like putting in the daily effort. I want them to grow. I want everyone in my network to grow to where we can build things congruently, through my brand, their brands. And I don't know what else to say other than I just genuinely like to see good people win. Any way that they can advance from people that I know, like, I just love seeing it. Fun. It's just fun.
It's great. And honestly, one of the people that you connected me with, shout out to Nick Hutchinson, Rise of the Reader. It's out now. So proud of you, man. Congratulations on the release of your book. That is a relationship and friendship that I owe to you. He has been a fantastic human in my life, and I'm looking forward to the day that he's actually been on the podcast. I'm looking forward to the day that we can connect in person. You're the man. And that's just one example of one person. The rest you all will see. But what I appreciate about your entire journey and how far you've come, the direction that you're taking your career, is that I outlined the consistency, the nobility in introducing other people, the selfless element, seeing what people didn't do for you that you are now injecting into the careers of other people, myself included. I don't know how many people are willing to do stuff like that. And I think that's what distinguishes you. You have this unconventional skill set, career path, and persona that you've taken all the best parts of your life and blended them into one, from creating music to bringing people together to creating experiences, maintaining your health, and offering these quality experiences as a person, as a friend. And even now, this man is on a layover going out of the country after just playing a show, multiple shows over the last couple of days. There is a relentlessness to your work ethic that I think a lot of people could learn from. And in a space where the standards are constantly being raised, you're finding ways to distinguish yourself and set your own. And that's something that I've always appreciated about you, and I'm glad to give you this platform to showcase what you're all about because you deserve it, man. I'm excited to see everything that's coming your way. You are a homie and a brother. There's a question that I pose to all my guests that I'm not going to pose to you as we round this thing out. If the future version of yourself from 10 years from now was in that ideal spot and you were to fly in and offer you some advice in order to get there, what do you think he would say to you?
Be consistent in everything that you're currently doing right now. I just truly think that's what he said. Because even now with the success that I'm having with all these shows, we just announced 39 shows in one tour. And that's more shows than I did in 2023. In one shot, we announced that tour.
Hell yeah.
Or I announced that tour. And even now, I say consistency, but what I mean is volume of effort. Don't underestimate the volume of effort. Because for all those 39 shows, there's 20 people that I didn't hear back from on email or DM or whatever.
Sure.
And so whether it's building a podcast or building a DJ brand or anything, it always takes more reps. It always takes longer than you think. It takes more creativity. It takes more money than you think. It's always more than what you expect it to be. And even today, thinking about some things that we overestimate the work that we do, and we underestimate the work that other people. We underestimate the work that other people are doing. And I caught myself, thinking in certain ways like, oh, this should be coming my way sooner than it is. On thinking about things on my flight here. I think the version of myself 10 years from now say, why are you thinking like that? You have to think, in those decade increments of these efforts will pay off. It may not be today, it might not be this week, but it'll in the next 6 months, a couple of years, it will pay off. Just volume of effort and consistency kind of together.
I'm excited to see what's next for you, man. Please let the audience know where they can keep up with your journey.
Most frequently on Instagram, Rose Driive, ROSEDRIIVE, Rose Driive 2 Eyes. YouTube, all in on that, and Spotify. So Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Rose Driive. Those are the main spots.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmy Grant, Rose Drive.
Thanks for having me. That was awesome.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
Once again, my name is Jonathan Cohen, and this is Inside the Inspired.